Hello. What's good, people?
How we
What's
feeling, y'all?
happening, people? I know there's probably not going to be a ton of people joining us today. I know it's 4th of July weekend or whatever. You want to celebrate the United States of America. And you know what?
I'm celebrating. I'm not even in America, so
I'm
that's
with you.
mental. And
Let's
if you're not
celebrate.
celebrating, you got to look yourself in the mirror and say you're a real patriot of the United
Absolutely.
States
I'm
of
going to
America.
pop off some fireworks, even though they're illegal over here in my
That's right.
backyard. But let us know who we're hanging out with here. Typically, we would be doing this stream on our Dynasty channel, but we are switching it up because it is getting closer and closer to redraft season. So if you're curious why we are live, that's because we're going to be grading someone's team who has signed up with our code on Flock Fantasy. So excited to have a look at this team, break it down, and tell you guys some of our thoughts. But first, just want to say what's up. Hopefully, you guys have had a great weekend. Hopefully, it's been fantastic, and you're excited for July as we get closer and closer to the NFL season. But why don't we go ahead and transition to looking at this team? And by the way, if you guys want to have your team reviewed on a live stream, everyone who signs up with our code LAND, L-A-N-D, which I can put that little promo up there. Everyone who signs up with our code LAND to flockfantasy.com and chooses the Mother Flocker tier gets one Dynasty team reviewed and one redraft team reviewed. So when you go to the website, you use our code, you sign up, you will get these Discord channels unlocked. One of them is the roster submissions. That's for Dynasty. One of them is for redraft, where you can put your redraft teams for submissions. You got the fantasy hotline where you can set up a DM with us, and then you unlock the Dynasty trades show as well. But this is where you would put your redraft teams for grades for consideration. What's up, Scribbles? He says, I need football back. I mean, we all do. I definitely feel you there. We all need it back. I'm with you. But go ahead and do us a favor. Drop a like if you guys want just to show some love. But you know how to sign up, how to get your team reviewed. Today we are looking at Mighty Bouch's team. Shout out to Mighty Bouch. She's a huge supporter of the website, huge supporter of us. I know she supports Fantasy Stock Exchange as well.
Yeah, she's killing it.
We're going to have a look at her team here. We looked at Crime Lord's team last time we did this on this channel. But it's redraft 12 team. It's a best ball league, super flex, full PPR, 0.5 tight end premium. It says made a trade to grab some hammer running backs at value. Had some regrets since CD and Waddle were available at the turn, but YOLO. Think I got some good best ball wide receivers if things fall the right way. So also didn't go as aggressively after the stack as I've done in the past with best ball. Read an article recently showing that hammering BPA is truly equal, if not superior, when you're only in a 10/12 team league. And I think we should talk about that first because I think you and I have said this many times on the channel. What's up, JSC? Welcome in, my man.
How we doing, brother?
But yeah, stacking in particular, I think is more effective when you are in a tournament format. Looking at all the money in week 17, let's say Best Ball Mania, the Chihuahuas, I know DraftKings, FanDuel, all these season-long tournaments where the money is won in week 17, that's when stacking is going to be probably the most effective. But you're right, in a 10/12 man best ball league, best player available is typically better. You don't want to reach on stacks or form different unique teams. Just take best player available because you're only battling against 11 or 9 people, whereas in a best ball tournament, you're facing hundreds of thousands, and Best Ball Mania, I think there's 677,000 entrants. So it's just a different strategy altogether. But she has her draft board here. So let's have a look. This is her here at the 1-3. Looks like she made some moves. I wonder if we can see the roster. No, well, let's pull up the roster, but we can figure that out on our own. Just looking at it, it looks like 12 team, like we mentioned, super flex, tight end premium, best ball. Okay. So why don't we look at the quarterbacks? What do you think about the quarterbacks here in a 12-man best ball league?
Yeah, quarterbacks right now, Jalen Hurts, Geno Smith with Jimmy G. I think your first two quarterbacks here are good, especially with high upside. I mean, Jalen Hurts, top 5 quarterback. Geno Smith, top 5 or top 6 quarterbacks last year, if I'm not mistaken. And both of these teams really only get better with their additions. With Swifty, a good pass catching back, and then Geno getting JSN, especially in a redraft perspective, may take a little bit, but he's not gonna take a step back. Still having Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, so I feel really confident there. I think my
It's
downfall
yeah. Go
for
ahead,
me
sorry.
would be Geno. That's what I would say. I don't love the Geno pick,
You
but
don't love
maybe
it?
I don't. I don't.
Geno or Jimmy? You don't love the Geno pick?
Sorry, Jimmy. I
Okay.
apologize.
I
I
was like,
meant
are you
Jimmy.
sure?
I don't love the Jimmy pick. I think I would have taken a chance with I see, for example, Desmond Ritter, who goes at the 11-7, and maybe that was the last one. I would have taken a chance on Sam Howell. I would have taken a chance on honestly a Brock Purdy and or a Trey Lance, knowing that I could have had a higher upside. I think Jimmy G is really capped, which I guess is good and you feel comfortable with. But I think I would have done that, and I think that's why you probably took Jimmy, because you were probably already running out of options, right? I mean, you saw Sam Howell go, you saw Mac Jones go, then you were like, okay, you saw Trey Lance go, and then you were probably contemplating between Purdy and Jimmy. You took Jimmy, not really understanding who was going to be starting there,
Yeah,
which
I
is
think
fair.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, I feel like if you take Purdy, it's like, will he start week 1? You don't really know. The only quarterback I might have considered would be Ritter in a redraft league.
That's what I would have. That's where I would have gone.
Yeah, I hear you. So I was going to talk about Geno just quickly. I mean, if you open up Bean's here. If you now he's trapped himself in my room. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. But as Zach is doing that,
he does this thing where he opens the door with his nose and then it closes behind him, my dog, and then he's stuck in the room. Anyway, I was gonna say if you play best ball, on Underdog they have the Chihuahua tournament. A lot of you guys would be aware of it, but the Chihuahua tournament is a Superflex best ball tournament, and in those drafts, Geno Smith is a second round pick in those drafts. I'm not even kidding you. Like, it's crazy how quick the quarterbacks go off the board in those Underdog Superflex best ball tournaments. So for Geno to be like a end of the second, early third pick in that format, and for you to get him in the 5th, I actually really like the value. Now you can make an argument between Geno and Jared Goff. I'm pretty happy between those two options. So I think the Geno pick was fantastic. You did a really good job of getting your quarterback to at the right point, because if you had waited till round 6, you would have been in a much more difficult position. Getting Geno there, and then you see 1, 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks go off the board. Clearly a tier break as well. I love that. I love Geno this year. I think they're going to have a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. Yeah, he finished quarterback 5, but he was quarterback 9, I think, in points per game. So realistically, expect top 12. Don't expect top 5. But still, that's a fantastic pick at the 5-3 in a Superflex league. You got JSN you just added. You got Charbonnet you just added. This offense got better. And guess what? The defense got better too. You got the best cornerback in the draft. So hopefully you'll be on the field even more for this offense. So I think getting Geno Smith there at the 5-3 was a very good pick. It doesn't feel like a reach to me, in case anyone feels that way or maybe she was curious about it. So I think you did a really good job with this quarterback room. I definitely hear where you're coming from, Badaki, with Jimmy G, because, what is really the upside there in a best ball league? The issue is going with those Niners. It's like, who is the starter? So I guess Ritter would have been maybe the upside play with the offense surrounding him. But so I think at quarterback you've done a really, really good job here. I'm looking at the other quarterback rooms. I would put your quarterback room against pretty much any quarterback room that's out there, except maybe the Burrow, Prescott, Goff, Lance. Oh my gosh, that guy went hard. His tight ends is where he really suffered, but in a tight end premium format, that's where he really suffered.
Getting those two. I mean, him having Dak Prescott there, it's good, but at the same time, man, hey, you could have had a whole different lineup. But yeah, I agree.
So yeah, quarterback, you did really, really well. So congrats on that. At running back,
41.
this is where
It's definitely interesting.
it's
I mean, Brian
tough.
Robinson, Brees Hall.
I don't see Brees Hall. Oh, you're
No,
right. My bad. My bad.
she has Bijan Robinson.
I read it straight up instead of actually reading the team. My
Nah,
bad.
she has Bijan Robinson, Brees Hall, Brian Robinson, Damian Harris, and Mike Davis.
Malik there.
Malik Davis. Which is not. Look, I think the biggest question mark here is Brees. In a best ball dynasty, it doesn't necessarily matter.
This isn't a dynasty though, yeah.
Sorry, it's not. You're right. It's not dynasty.
I still like that pick though at the 3-8. I'm glad she didn't take him in the second round. But I mean, who else? So was there another running back on the board that you would have taken? I guess I would have taken Pollard actually.
Yeah, Ramondre Stevenson, Pollard's there, Najee Harris is there. There's a lot of really close running backs that you could have considered taking at the 3-8 over Brees Hall, who we hope is going to get the start in the beginning of the season, who we hope is going to come back and be this guy. But we've kind of seen the short amount of history when these running backs tear the ACL. Their next year in fantasy is not as necessarily as we want it to be, but in real life football, they probably are gaining back. They're getting their mental back, trusting that knee, trusting that ACL. It's interesting.
Yeah.
With these picks.
Yeah, no, definitely an interesting point there. I was reading it straight down, and I was like, your RB1 is Brian Robinson. You've got Damian Harris as your RB2, and Malik Davis as your RB3. But I would have gone Pollard over Brees. I'm higher on Pollard than your average person this year. But you just have to hope that Brees hits. If you're going to take him that high.
That is the hope.
A lot of concerns with when he'll actually be ready. If they do sign Dalvin Cook, which there's a lot of rumors about that, then what is the upside? Like Dalvin Cook won't be irrelevant like Michael Carter ended up being, But I mean, outside of that, it's a good running back room.
Yeah, if it does hit, you're buzzing, and you're saying, well, Brees Hall, I'm getting the guy that essentially should be the RB1 or could be arguably the RB1, RB2, RB3, and you're getting him here at. I mean, if you really count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, RB9, you're getting a good price right there for Brees.
If he was healthy week 1 and he was the Brees Hall of last year, this would be a absolute steal. We just don't know if that's going to be the case. What's up, Kyle? Welcome in. What's up, Big Breakfast? Welcome in. Thanks for joining us, guys. So at running back, I think that Pollard to me was the better pick, but outside of that, I think you've done well. Brian Robinson that late. I don't know. I'm not a huge Brian Robinson guy, but I think that late it's a fine pick. And then the Malik Davis pick.
Go ahead.
Sorry, the Malik Davis pick. I don't dislike this pick because I think Malik Davis is really undervalued in dynasty formats because he is the only one behind Tony Pollard right now. But I think there's other picks I would have made, to be honest. Like I think Bigsby was a better pick. Chase Brown, if things go up, just completely upside down with Joe Mixon, or if Joe Mixon gets injured, we know what Samaje Perine's done. Rashawn Johnson is someone that I would have preferred there. So just a couple names I probably would have preferred over Malik Davis myself.
I would say the same thing with Brian Robinson. I mean, if you look at it, it looks like James Cook was available. I would have taken James Cook. I don't know about you. I see Khalil Herbert was also available, especially in the early half of the season, especially if you could have gotten Roscoe after, maybe just locked up that backfield where he went at the 15-5. Maybe you reach for him instead of taking Malik, hypothetically. So you get Khalil at the 11-3. You lock up that backfield by drafting Roscoe at the 15, or I guess you can say 14-10. That would have felt a little bit more comfortable knowing that you have that backfield and knowing that whichever one is going to hit in a best ball format. You're kind of buzzing, right? But yeah, James Cook definitely a guy I would have taken over Brian Robinson, especially with the passing upside and how much I kind of see him taking a next step this year. And you have Damian Harris, so another scenario where you could have locked up that whole backfield.
The only issue with that, in my opinion, in a best ball league is that you are limiting any sort of upside hits in the playoffs.
Sure.
Right? Sure. Like, what if neither of those guys go off and then you only have one backfield or two backfields that you're focused on? So I get you, but that might be something to think about as well. just in best ball because it's just a little bit different. But I hear you for sure. But if one of those guys goes down, you have the other, then you have a great back. It's all risk reward, let's be honest. But at wide receiver, we've got DJ Moore, Chris Godwin, Jahan Dotson, George Pickens, Rashid Shaheed, Robert Woods.
Cool.
Couple picks that I really love. Jahan Dotson at the 8-10, I really love as your wide receiver 3. And then Rashid Shaheed at the 15-3, one of my favorite. I mean, I've talked about this guy in depth on our Dynasty channel, but one of my favorite best ball picks as well. Those guys that you can get in round 14, 15, 16 that are just, you never want to start them, but there are weeks where they could be like top 5, unquestionably at the position. Guys like Shaheed, guys like MVS, guys like McCole Hardman come to mind. Shaheed, I think, is a fantastic pick there at the 15-3. When he had his chance last year to be a starter, he absolutely capitalized on it. I think his role will grow, and we could see him be, I would not surprise me in the playoffs if Shaheed's a reason why you win a week, honestly, like with the amount of, random performances that he could have. So I think you've done really, really well with the wide receiver room. Now, do you have any superstars in there? Probably not, but it's a good collective group.
Yeah, the group is good. It's not amazing. I think one thing I'm not in love with is the Chris Godwin pick. I think he's good in a dynasty perspective and the longevity. It's really hard for me. I think I would be safe to say for both of us to envision him, being this top fantasy guy, especially with Baker Mayfield not having the history of producing these fantasy relevant or running wide receivers in a week-to-week basis. Number one, number two, not really seeing the history at all. I think he only had one wide receiver. Yeah, with Baker, one wide receiver finishing in the top 15 in a fantasy finish. So I'm not necessarily in love with that. But if it's Kyle Trask, hopefully there's some good hope and new upside.
That's a good point. Yeah, there's plenty of wide receivers I prefer over Godwin at the 7-3. Ayuk for sure would have been one of them. Deontay Johnson.
Deontay, 100%.
Traylon for me.
I would have, maybe it's a reach or
Addison for me
for one of those guys. But once again, and you think about it, like you see where, she kind of alluded to it in her message in the details about, CeeDee Lamb, Waddle falling to them to these guys that she traded out of. Imagine if she would have started like that. Jalen Hurts, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle would have continued there and then get the running back at the 6'10 and the 7'3. Maybe that's the Miles Sanders. Maybe that is Dameon Pierce. And then having Jahan Dotson. And then
that would have been a better team build for sure.
Obviously, it's so much easier to say that now knowing how the draft fell because you wouldn't have it
full
predicted.
PPR league as well.
Yeah. But that would have been a crazy start having hypothetically once again Miles Sanders, Dameon Pierce, Cam Akers there. I would even say is still more exciting. I guess with the running backs in my opinion. But yeah, look. Wide receiver room is not bad. I do like George Pickens. I am really expecting this offense to take a next step. He's a guy that I brought as a breakout coming into this year in past videos. Same thing with Jahan Dotson. Both of my guys here, Jahan Dotson and George Pickens coming up. And DJ Moore, you hope another big step with Justin Fields, who we are both believers in. So I like the wide receiver room, but just, like Zach said, no heavy hitters here that you can see.
In a full PPR league, do we have how many starters? Let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 starters. I definitely would have preferred to have a little bit more wide receiver strength over running back strength myself in a full PPR league. I want those flex spots just full of wide receivers that I think could hit consistently. But I still think you've done well. Here's the issue in a tight end premium format. It is so tough to gauge when to draft a tight end. But at the 410, it really hurts knowing Darren Waller would have been available at the 610. It really hurts that you could have got like Chig much later or Schultz or Pat Fryermuth in the 9th instead of George Pickens.
That in a tight end premium, I mean, I guess it's not a massive tight end premium. It's only 0.5.
Yeah.
So maybe people aren't necessarily value them too significantly. Outside of, I would say, that your Travis Kelce's and Mark Andrews. Maybe that's why tight ends didn't really rise in this draft.
I am surprised that in a tight end premium, tight ends didn't go off the board earlier. It's tough because you see 2 tight ends go off in the 4th and you think, oh, I might need to get one here. in a tight end premium. So it's hard to gauge, but man, this team would have looked so much better if, let's say, this was Calvin Ridley or DK or Keenan, and then at the 6'10 it's Darren Waller. I'm higher on Darren Waller than your average person, probably going to be a my guy this year, but enter usable tight end. But yeah, I mean, so obviously we can look back and regret and say, dang, I kind of took the tight end and then no one followed me.
Yeah.
No one followed me across
for a whole round and a half, essentially.
Yeah. But overall, Goddard is still a fine tight end in a tight end premium format. We couldn't really say that's a value, I wouldn't say, at that point. But yeah, really, really good team. Again, Breece Hall, I think, I feel good with the quarterback room. I feel fine with Goddard. Don't love the value, but I think, he was a fine pick. So really, how high this team can go in best ball, of course, we're not going to set lineups. We're not going to make trades in this format. But how high this team can go will be relying on two things, in my opinion, which is Breece Hall's health and the wide receiver room. You have a lot of players who we are projecting could do well, but of course, projections don't always work out. Last thing I will say is Taysom Hill, I think, is a 200 IQ pick, though, at the 16-10. You hate to have Taysom in a redraft league because you never know when the hell to start him. But in a best ball league, those 2 times he's the tight end 1, you'll have him there, just with one of your last picks. So I think that was 200 IQ, but outside of that, I think you did a good job. If I had to put a grade on this team, I'd probably put in the B territory. B. Yeah. B plus might be pushing it because of the wide receivers, but I would say a strong B.
Yeah, I would agree. Everything here really hits outside of I would say the wide receivers. Still a good group. Just once again, no heavy hitters, unfortunately, which is okay. And you kind of saw them really trickling down. You were probably hoping a Terry, a London, a Judy potentially slips to you. DJ Moore falls in that awkward area. You kind of have to take DJ Moore, or you reach a little bit. That's the difficult part. But yeah, good team.
Yeah. But hey guys, that was the only team we're going to review tonight. We'll look at some of your questions in the chat here in 1 second, but just want to let you guys know we'll be doing this again next week. Okay, so if you want your team reviewed, it's actually quite simple. All you need to do is go to the Flock Fantasy website, use our promo code, which is LAND when signing up. That will get you 30% off your membership. If you choose the Mother Flocker tier, you're going to unlock a bunch of things from us, okay? So let's go through those things that you unlock. First, you unlock all articles, all rankings on the site, bonus content, draft guides, databases, etc. But outside of that, you also unlock all of the Discord from us. You can have one of your Dynasty teams graded, as I see here Jason has done. Maybe we should look at Jason's Dynasty team while we're on this channel as well. You can have your one redraft team graded. You can set up your fantasy hotline, which is a direct DM to us for advice all year long. You can be on our Dynasty trade show and more. So yeah, use our code to sign up if you want that perk. Hey, Jason just submitted his team. I think we should grade it. Even though this is the redraft channel, we are going to be doing the stream on this channel now as we're getting into the season. So I think we should grade his team, Badaki. If you're down.
Yeah, let's do it.
But just before we do that, I was going to say hello to the chat. Kyle says, how do you guys feel about JSN, Addison, Quentin, and redraft? To me, Addison and JSN, I feel very comfortable drafting at their ADP. I think Addison's a steal at his ADP. Quentin, I'm just not sure because you're kind of betting on Mike Williams and Keenan to be injured for him to be like a league winner. If those guys are healthy, which we don't know if they will or not, then it's a little bit more difficult to project him being like a really good starter and have a really good role early on. And in redraft leagues, that's a little bit tough because you want to get some wins right now. It's just a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I think it depends on how low Quentin's going to fall.
Same.
I think JSN Addison really goes in I'm not going to say people reach.
I'll be right back.
Significantly higher. Yeah. I'm not saying people reach or they go significantly higher. I think they go around their ADP, but Quentin kind of feels like a good low risk, high reward type player when it comes down to, yeah, we are banking on these injuries, but we know both of these guys, Keenan Allen, 31 31 years old. Mike Williams, 28 years old, struggled both with injuries this past year. And if that does happen, even if it's a 4-game, not like something extensive like a 7-8 game like we saw last year with Keenan, we can see a glimpse of maybe the turn around with Quinton. But yeah, I mean, obviously JSN and Addison are the two top ones in a redraft perspective. He said, "Hey fellas, who you prefer, Debo or Scary?" In a redraft perspective, I still Debo for me. I think a lot could change with quarterback. You know, if Brock Purdy is the quarterback, Debo by mile. If it's Trey Lance, I'm not necessarily sure what that answer would be, to be completely honest with you. But at the moment, I think we will both feel really confident. I think Zach will also say it will be Debo Samuel there. In that what's happening in UT? Say, hey boys, can I get a quick price check on CMC and Cooper Cup in a Dynasty 12-team Superflex? It's 3 firsts for both in the right ballpark. So CMC and Cooper Cup in a Dynasty 12-team for 3 firsts. Look, I would say this. Cooper Cup right now, I'm hesitant on paying a first. CMC, I'm happy to give a first and a little bit more. So sending 3 firsts for CMC and Cooper Cup, I would say no, I would not do that. Cooper Cup, an aging wide receiver, obviously with Matthew Stafford. CMC also an aging running back. Yeah, I wouldn't do 3 firsts for CMC and Cooper Cup. Now, are they 3 late first and you can guarantee me that they're late first, we can have a conversation, and you're a competing team. Yeah, let's have a conversation, right? Like how are we really trying to win that chip this year and really go all in? I'm happy once again to have a conversation and maybe readjust, but 3 firsts is just way too much.
So with Hassan choking out women, yeah, I would say Tajay Spears is the next man up. He becomes more interesting for sure.
Which just makes things a little bit more spicy.
JSC says, does Cooper Cup actually fall in any of drafts you've been in? No, not really.
No.
I mean, the lowest I've ever seen him go is like pick 6.
Not in a redraft perspective, yeah. I mean, yeah, pick 6, I would say. Pick 6 all the way to either wide receiver 2. I have to pick one.
He can be as high as 103. I haven't seen him go much lower than the 106. Jason, thank you so much for signing up using our code. We are now going to look at your Dynasty team. So we're looking at Dynasty and redraft teams today. We're switching it back into the Dynasty mind frame now. And let's have a look at his team here. This is interesting because it's an 8-man. So we're going to read his team out, and I assume it's a very good team. Because 8-man leagues, you typically don't have, any bad rosters. But let's have a look. I think the biggest thing is if you're going to be. Sorry. Yeah.
No. So the biggest thing is how your team matches up compared to others. But I think every team's going to be good. Anyways, let's see.
It's an 8-team Dynasty Superflex with 28 roster spots. Wow. Oh my gosh, 28 roster spots in an 8-team. I wonder how many starters there are on this Dynasty league, but keep 22 every year. Here's the kicker. 4 quarterback max, 4 tight end max on an active roster. I currently have 9 picks in the top 28, including 2, 10, 17, 20 to 24, and 28. Let me know what you think of my roster with all those draft picks and maybe what your plans would be moving forward with my team. I'm taking A-Rich at 2, also targeting 2 rookie tight ends in this draft. Okay, so I'm assuming
hasn't happened yet.
I mean, is he referring to his rookie draft? He must be, right?
So he's going to take A-Rich at the 102, and he's going to be targeting 2 tight ends, 2 rookie tight ends in this draft, which I'm assuming at the 202, which potentially be Michael Mayer. And at the 301,
sometimes a tight end falls there.
Who's at the 301? I mean,
it's rare, but Laporta sometimes.
A Luke Musgrave.
Wait, we have to think about this differently though, dude. Because think about it. There's only 8 people, so that 301 is actually. Oh gosh, let me do some quick math. Sorry.
What's 8?
8, 16. Math is hard. That's pick 24, which would be. Oh God. I mean, no,
Well,
that's not pick 24. That's sorry, I'm dumb. That is actually pick 17, which would technically be the 206. Correct? 206 or so, 205. I don't know, but
No, 8,
in
9,
a
10.
12 man.
No, it would be the 10. No, think about it. You have 8 teams. He has the
Yes.
102. So 108, and then it goes to 108, which is then the 201, which is technically the 9, the 202, which is technically the 10. So the 202 is technically the 10th spot, which means you can get.
I was referring to the 301.
Ah, okay, sorry, but yes, I'm referring to
because that was the question you were asking about. No.
Yeah, but the 202 is the 8 pick, and then the 301 would be, I don't know which was, I forgot.
No, the 202 would be the 10th pick.
10th pick. There you go. That's what I meant to say. The 10th.
So
pick.
the 202 is actually the 10th pick, which is, you can get a pretty valuable player there. Okay, so why don't we let's look at how many starters he has. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 2 tight ends starting, but you can only roster 4 tight ends. Why? That doesn't make sense. If you're gonna have 2 starting tight ends, you can only roster 4. It's an 8-man league. I know tight ends are scarce, but in an 8-man league where you can only roster 4 tight ends, that doesn't make much sense to me. I'm also curious if it's a tight end premium.
He doesn't say.
But let's assume it's not, because I feel like people would say if it was. Okay, so altogether we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 10 starters. It is 1 quarterback. It says Superflex. I don't see a Superflex. Do you? Oh yeah. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm an idiot. Okay, let's restart. Okay, clean slate here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 starting spots. 12 starting spots. Okay. So, your starting quarterback, you've got Trevor Lawrence. Let's have a look and try and find where Trevor Lawrence is here.
Yeah, his team is J-Rock.
Yes. Okay, cool. Okay.
So, yeah, Trevor Lawrence, Geno Smith, Aaron Rodgers. I think it's a good quarterback room. We can move on from there, personally.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence, Geno Smith, Aaron Rodgers, you're right. Good quarterback room. But I will say, like, in an 8-man, it's not... Like, to me, this is actually... It's a pretty average quarterback room in an 8-man, to be honest.
I guess who else can he pick up? I mean...
Well, I'm just saying that in... Geno Smith is fine. Aaron Rodgers is fine. But in an 8-man... Like, you want a Burrow Herbert like this guy has. You want an Allen Lamar. I mean, this guy has Allen Lamar Fields.
That's why he's going to go Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point. So he's going to add Anthony Richardson to his team, and I think that's the right move with his 102. So that definitely helps. So we'll agree that will make the quarterback room feel much, much better.
Yeah.
Running back, go ahead.
Yeah, Travis Etienne, Stevenson, Sanders, Harris, Jet, and Pierre Strong. I like the team. All young players: Etienne, Stevenson, Miles.
Miles would be young for the position, but
yeah, I guess you can say, but I guess 3 decent running backs so you can start. Once again, in an 8-man team, just kind of like we were saying, no heavy hitters, not crazy depth either compared to all these other teams that have. I mean, they have like 12 running backs. Feels like they have a ridiculous amount of running backs on their team. I think it's a okay room.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say. For an 8-man, I expected a little bit more firepower in the running back spot. We're going to go A-Rich at the 102. If Bijan is there, don't overthink it. Take Bijan.
I think he went wide receiver hella early.
Yeah, the 202 we said is the 110. So for me, that's where I would probably be grabbing Charbonnet. And, in this format, if Kenneth Walker goes down, you have a league winner. We don't want that to happen. But at wide receiver, like Badaki said, we assume that's where you went hard. And it looks like you did. You got Jamar Chase, Garrett Wilson, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Jerry Jeudy, Jameson Williams, George Pickens, Elijah Moore, Rondale Moore. There's not a single wide receiver there that I don't like.
Exactly.
And that I don't think is very valuable at their ADP relative to the community. So I think you've done a really good job with that wide receiver room.
The tight end is not amazing.
tight ends in a 2 tight end league, it's a little thin. So I can see why he wants to get another tight end on board. Yeah, I guess at the 202, like that's either Kincaid if he's there, which he might not in a 2 tight end league, but that's Kincaid if he's there, or Charbonnet to me.
For me, I'm going Kincaid here. Charbonnet,
Yeah, same. I would prefer Kincaid.
Yeah. So Anthony Richardson, Kincaid, hypothetically, we'll see. I think that's a good start so far. But yeah, I think this team is interesting. I would agree. The running back room, no heavy. I mean, look, you have Travis Etienne, Ramondre Stevenson, but the depth, I think it's what you look at these other teams and they have crazy. I mean, like maybe you can get a Tank. Maybe you can acquire yourself a Tank Bigsby here to get a good backup. And kind of lock up that backfield with Travis Etienne. Let me just see what else.
So 8-mans are always going to be tough because, obviously there is just so much room for things to go. Like everyone's team is really good.
Yeah.
The only thing I would really suggest with this team, which you're going to address it in your rookie draft, is add a tight end. Add an impact running back with one of those picks and take Anthony Richardson or Bijan Robinson, At the 202, like I said, I prefer Kincaid. If Kincaid is gone, I think Charbonnet.
What was the 301 again?
The 301 ends up being like the 205, 206.
So, and I mean, you could get a good running back there. You could get a Kendre. You could get a Devon. You could get, well, I guess. Yeah, that's what I mean. Charbonnet could fall to the 205.
In some leagues he does, in some leagues he doesn't. But I would say in the 301, 304, 305, 306, 307, one of those picks I would use to grab Tank Bigsby, like we talked about, just to secure yourself.
Could be there.
Rashawn Johnson, and then I would try and get, like we said, a couple tight ends that we like: Michael Mayer, Dalton Kincaid, Sam Laporta. Kind of fill out that roster. I would heavily suggest talking to your commissioner about this. Like, okay, I understand 4 quarterbacks. Fair enough. 4 tight ends is a little bit more difficult for me to understand. It would make sense if it's like a 1 tight end league. Even then, it wouldn't really make sense to put a cap. I mean, you have 28 roster spots in an 8-man league. Why are we now capping? But look, I would say in a 2 starting tight ends starting lineup, you need more than 4 tight end max on your roster. I mean, think about it. You also can start 2 running backs. Why is there no limit on running backs then? Right?
This is what
Makes
I would
no
say.
sense to me, so.
Yeah, I would agree. Is somebody really gonna go for a Quentin or Zay Flower in an 8-man league when you have a lineup like he has?
I think so, because there's so many starters. I think it kind of evens out a little bit in that, where you can start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide receivers.
But these wide receiver rooms, I mean, are we really going to start Zay or Quentin over CD, Stephon Diggs, Brandon Ayuk, Calvin
Obviously,
Ridley?
You're not starting them over those guys, but I still think they hold value.
For sure. And I think especially if a team is not as good, has a heavy hitter wide receiver room, and they rather target that tight end, I have a feeling Dalton Kincaid could go higher than expected in this draft. Like for example, headhunters. Wide receiver room is really good here. Hypothetically, he has picked 103, 104, 105. I guess he can go for a wide receiver like a Zay or Quentin, and then go for a Dalton Kincaid earlier, because he has Kyle Pitts, and yeah, you have Darren Waller, who's older. What happens if he gets injured again? Do you really want Mike Gesicki or Tyler Conklin? I guess that's how I'm envisioning it, especially with the running back room. Nick Chubb, Tony Pollard, Khalil Herbert, once again, not heavy hitters in the depth sense. Let me say that. In the depth sense, like, he doesn't have amazing depth, but I think he would probably target that tight end room to solidify that, then going for the wide receivers or running backs like a Charbonnet. Maybe that's just me.
Definitely could.
Maybe that's just me.
I mean, there's a chance he goes Anthony Richardson and then you get Bijan, which would be honestly perfect for your team. Because he's only got Dak Prescott, but I know he has a lot of picks up there.
Who has the 101 here?
The guy you're talking about has a 101.
The guy I am talking about has the one, but he has the 103.
He has 103, 104, 105. So maybe he prefers A-Rich and he just grabs him, or he doesn't overthink it. He goes Bijan and see what falls to him at quarterback. That's a more likely scenario. But regardless, if you get A-Rich, if you get Bijan Robinson, you've done well to add to the team. But look, I think you've done well. Like we said, I'll be targeting some of those running backs that we like with those other picks, as well as tight end. A Dalton Kincaid, a Sam Laporta, a Michael Mayer are all guys that you could consider with that second pick. But I would say if it's tight end premium, I feel better about it. If it's not tight end premium, I might try and get one of those tight ends later on with your 301, 304, 305. But outside of that, it's a good team. You're ranked third in league power rankings. But honestly, like the third team here, and then we'll go down. I mean, the guy that we just talked about is seventh. This guy's about to have Bijan Robinson here. The only weak part of his team really is quarterback. He's about to add probably Bryce Young and CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even a team down here could make the playoffs. So the last thing I'll say is I would prioritize in an 8-man quality over quantity. So I know you have 12 starters, and that's a big starting lineup. But if you get any sort of deals where like you can package, picks to move up, or if you can send, let's say, multiple players and upgrade it at a position, I'd be looking to do that in an 8-man. But outside of that, like you've got a good team. Quarterback is strong, especially when you add A-Rich. Wide receivers are fantastic. It's definitely a huge strength of your team. You did really, really well. I mean, this is how a lot of my teams would look like probably in an 8-man. I would go after the wide receivers. And then obviously improve at tight end, improve at quarterback, try and find some good depth running backs, and you should be good to go. So I think overall, good job. You did a really good job with this team. Yeah.
Agreed.
I know you just submitted your team on the Discord. I'm going to add you as a friend once you accept that, because it's a part of your Flock Fantasy membership when you use our code LAND. Once you accept that, I will DM you, set up your fantasy hotline, and after you watch this, please feel free to DM us with any questions that you might have after we've reviewed the team. But overall, I would say really well done. Yeah, you did good.
All love, man. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for supporting.
Yeah.
Good team. Good team.
So that is probably it for today. But again, guys, lastly, I'll remind you, unless there's any other teams that we're missing in either. Nope, it should be good. So reviewed both of those teams. Again, if you want your team reviewed, use our code LAND, LAND, when signing up to flockfantasy.com. Choose the Mother Flocker tier. You're going to unlock the ability for us to look at one of your redraft teams, one of your dynasty teams. That's what each person gets when they sign up with a membership. It'll be on a live stream just like this. So feel free to DM us. Happy 4th of July. Drop a like on your way out, and we'll see you guys here very, very soon. All love.
All love.